Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. Today we have Natasha Koo, who is a leader of a women's tribe for a feminine space, because she was an ex-perfectionist, spending her time trying to please everybody, avoiding conflict, and through it all, she overcame low self-confidence, guilt, and self-sabotage to begin creating transformation and moving forward in life. So let's give a warm welcome to Natasha Koo. So Natasha, welcome.
Thank you so much. I can already feel the virtual warmth from virtual hugs.
Virtual hugs are always a great thing. You know, it's like there's no problems with distance. Like it doesn't matter if someone's halfway around the world. Like, there's that virtual hug.
Absolutely.
So, now, Natasha, tell us a little bit more about your background, because you, as we were talking a little bit before, you have an interesting background of being all over the world.
That's true. So, first, not really by choice, I was born in Hong Kong. And then afterwards, I moved to Beijing after kindergarten. And after 2 years staying in Beijing, finishing up, I think that was second grade in elementary school, I and my whole family immigrated to Canada. So that's where I grew up until pretty much I met a random human being at Heathrow Airport, which eventually turned out to be my husband. So that took me kind of away from my home and my really comfortable environment in Canada to now in Switzerland. So right now I'm living in Zurich and have been here for a bit more than 3 years now.
Okay, now that is quite a little adventure there. You don't hear about that many people of meeting somebody in the airport out of all places. Like, okay, but you think about it, most people that have their heads down, like, I've got to go from terminal A to terminal B. I got to catch my flight because I'm running late. And you meet your husband.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty special situation in that we were going from different places to different places, and we ended up actually being stuck in London for 3 days. So we were those strangers. And I mean, eventually, yes, we left the airport, and the first night we spent at the airport and we tried to sleep. And this was, I think we met on the 18th of December. So the first night we tried to sleep, and airports have those nice marble floors, which are actually freezing cold in the winter. So That didn't quite work. And the next day we're like, okay, let's go to London. Let's just, take a shower. We were both traveling from North America. So we're like so tanked and so jet lagged and tired and smelly. So but what ended up happening was, two strangers getting closer, and also what is there to do, right? You can't leave this island. So let's go to the museum and let's go get some Chinese food. So I guess that's how we all started. But really unexpected also for myself, and a great leap of faith too.
That definitely is a leap of faith that, to end up transforming your life that way, because most people, when they think about moving even across town, like, oh my gosh, it'd be so different. I'll take a different route to go to work. And here it is. You move from Canada to Switzerland. Now that's a switch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, how was that adjustment for you?
Culturally, there's a really big difference. And what I was really more surprised by, and I have to be honest here to say that I was very disappointed by, was that I spent about a year and a half learning German, both in the university, at my school in Waterloo, and on my own. And I thought, I need the basic words, I, you, and I can make a, basic sentence. I came here, and, my boyfriend, so, my husband now, but I think he mentioned that people speak Swiss German in Switzerland. But I didn't realize it's almost like a completely different language. The words are different, the pronunciation's different, and the locals don't really like to speak High German. And that's what I learned.
Right.
So I came here, I'm like, wait, I understand nothing? And the only thing I could understand was actually the broadcast on at the train stations where they're saying, "Oh, be careful, stand clear on Gleis or on platform 1 because a train is passing through." And they would say that, in proper High German. And I was like, I get that, computerized language. But I was like, wait, but the locals speak Swiss German. So that was very tough. Spending a lot of time thinking that you have the basis to connect with the locals and realizing, dang, they speak another language.
Right. That is definitely a shocker. It's one of the things that I think some people don't understand, that in a lot of languages, even though it's the same language, there's so many different variations that you just might not understand anything what someone says to you.
Yeah. Completely different dialect. And we think dialect is something, at least I guess in North America, you have certain accents in certain places in the States, but in Italian also, I've heard that sometimes it's even hard for Italians to understand each other because of their dialects and the accents from where they're from. So that was a real shock for me coming here.
Oh, yes. I remember years ago when I was living over there in Germany, and I spent a lot of time in the Netherlands. And just over that period of time, I was able to start understanding the local dialect of Dutch as when I was learning German. And then I would go up to Amsterdam, and then I'd have that confused look on my face wondering, I know the person just said something in Dutch, but as to what it was, I have no clue. But then I didn't feel too bad when I talked to a lot of my Dutch friends, like, yeah, neither do we. We have no clue what they said. So it's something that's so common, but not everybody understands, especially over here in North America, where pretty much if you speak English, you can go anywhere and not have any type of communication problems.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do have to say that at the very beginning, and for the listener who have moved to a completely new place, you might find yourself also kind of doing the same thing. And what I found myself doing was really trying to find friends, but in a way that was a little bit sticky. So I was really trying to fit in, and I would kind of equate the number of people who came to my potlucks or dinner parties to be like how much people accepted me. And that's not true, right? Because you can't tell like how welcomed you are or how connected you are to other people just by a number or just by some kind of external value I was putting on things. But I thought that at the beginning I was really trying hard, and I put so much value on the outside and not necessarily how comfortable I felt personally and the deep connections I really wanted to form, that I think it was quite a struggle because I put so much value on the external type of things. And when you move to a new place, there's so much that you cannot control. And I think that like my inner control freak was really trying to get the numbers in or trying to make myself feel like I had an idea of what's going on. But when you're adapting, you're just adapting. And I eventually had to kind of go with the flow and go with the process and know that it does take time. So I think that for myself, it was also adaptation, but also an inward kind of change that needed to happen in order to feel good and peaceful and connected in this new place.
Right, exactly. It's a challenge when you want to have control over an entire process and then realize you have to go with the flow instead. This breaks all the rules you set up for yourself.
Yeah.
So how did you start to just overcome that need for control? Because so many people, it's that fear, like if they don't have control over it, then the outcome, it's going to be something other than they want. Mm-hmm. How did you get past that?
Well, I can share a little bit about my first job, or I would call it my volunteer work, because I came here and I was going to Germany after the summer to have an exchange semester. But in between, I had 3 months in Switzerland and I wanted to get some work experience. So I ended up working for a wonderful foundation, which helps social entrepreneurs. But the thing was, there was that language barrier, and I felt really left out in terms of connecting to my colleagues and also integration to the workplace. And because of that dissatisfaction inside of me, I really wanted to make up for it in my personal life. So to be honest, I don't even know how I came up with this idea, but I came up with the idea that I wanted to teach yoga at a public park after work, maybe once a week. And I had no yoga teaching experience. I did some at university, but I posted it online in a bunch of expat groups, just English speaking forums, right? Because I couldn't do otherwise. My German was crap. So that's what I did. And I ended up getting some, not locals, but some foreigners and some expats coming to my classes, and some students who can't afford normal yoga classes because I did them by donation. And so they just came. And I realized that week after week, they would actually continue to return to my classes. So I thought, well, that's not so bad. So I think that I have this personality where if I have an idea, and I have lots because I'm a creative, really. If I have lots of ideas and I feel like one is really on my mind and is there kind of hanging around my head, then I do it. The price of ignoring it is greater than just doing it, or the fear of doing it. So I end up just taking on not different projects, but just executing on certain ideas that just come across my mind. And like this, I forget already like why that idea came about, but I go ahead and just, I guess through this action and this forward kind of movement, things start shifting, and I start to bring myself into situations and to meet different people where then the circumstances in my life begin to change.
That's excellent. And you did something there where you figured out a way to start building up that network of people by tapping into those. Who could you relate with? What was something you had in common? And so many people, they don't do that. They just kind of go, well, I can't connect to anybody, so I'm just going to sit around and twiddle my thumbs.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. So now, once you eventually, after you met your husband and then you moved to Switzerland, what did you start doing to begin building a life to create a business while living there? Since, when you move to another country, sometimes that can be a little bit difficult to start doing something. Yeah,
I definitely tried the route of integrating and finding a job that was related to my field. And my field and what I learned was sustainability and business. So solving environmental problems through market solutions. So that was really what I was super passionate about. And also that volunteering opportunity, they were helping social entrepreneurs and social startups. So I was really in that field. And at the beginning, I worked for these foundations. I worked for nonprofit, and I always had trouble, like throughout my young career life, to find the right organizations that reflected my own values, because I cared so much about the environment that I knew if I wanted to go that path, I wanted to make the most difference and the most impact possible. So I always had this disconnect that trying to find the right organization, the right job, and that was always a struggle for me. But I have to say that how I came about to starting my own work, that was quite recent. And I have to say that the universe forced me to.
Well, okay, that's good.
I have to say that there were so many moments of my life, and career-wise, especially later on, I definitely chose to study what I studied, and I chose the jobs in the environmental field. But I think it was my first real job. So I had those, foundations in the nonprofits, and I really loved that. But then I landed a job that was real, in my opinion. Yeah. And it was for a startup, and it's a social type of platform, online business. So I was working for them, and pretty much right after I joined the company, they stopped paying the employees. And
That's a problem.
oh my goodness. So I was the first one to kind of ask my boss what was going on. And I could really tell that nothing was going on. He pretty much made a choice to stop paying us. And so I said, okay, the laws in Switzerland are like this. I can stop working for you. And the next day I got fired, like pretty much illegally, because you're supposed to give notice and all that. So I was asked to leave right away. And I just had this like, okay, no more job. That was supposed to be my first real job in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not ready to go job hunting again, especially since you can imagine the struggle I have of finding the right job that would, align with my values, right? Like this job searching was a tough process for me. So I thought, you know what? I will take some time off. I'm not going to dive right into another job search. It's all right. Let's just enjoy a little bit of time off. So I did. And as a creative, the moment you open space in your life, you fill it with more ideas. Yeah. The ideas have more space to like get more colorful, more concrete, even more intense. So I had a few business ideas. One was called Happy Banana, and I wanted to connect health coaches, life coaches, and bring their clients into more of a social community, because whenever you go to a therapist or to someone for any kind of professional personal development help, it's usually kind of like a one-on-one process, and it's a bit lonely. And if you're in this kind of transformational place, not everyone in your life would understand. So I was thinking, let me fill that gap. And for those who are also creating your own business, sometimes I know that you have to stumble across a few ideas to kind of get to the gold nugget. Like you're kind of picking your bucket of pebbles, and you're trying to find that gold nugget idea. So that idea was more of a pebble, but it led me closer to my gold nugget idea, which is now the feminine space. So at that time, I definitely didn't have as much clarity. And from the business idea, it was not solving a very specific problem. So anyway, so slowly that transformed. And then with my personality, I just keep moving forward with my ideas. And it was this one that I came across. And I definitely also had to have my own experience of realizing the power of the feminine in me, and then to connect that and see the gap outside in the real world, and to speak with women, and then pretty much pursue this full time and with all of me. So I have to say that a lot of it had to do with me being forced in certain situations, which at the time was awful, but I'm so glad I got fired.
That was the catalyst for everything, because you think about it. If that didn't take place, you probably would not have created feminine space at the time that you did.
No, absolutely. That really, to me, I think back and I was like, right, I needed a job. I needed kind of to show myself, yes, I can find a job here. I can integrate in Switzerland. And then I still needed to be shown, this is not your way. I know you tried, and I want to prove to you that you can do it, but no. I think that was the message for me.
Right, exactly. And when you look at it, the best thing about it is that it represents what so many successful entrepreneurs have something is in common. There was an event that was a catalyst that pushed them forward to doing it. Because so many times you might have an idea like, oh, I'll get to it. But then you're forced to do it because it becomes part of necessity. Like, oh my gosh, I have to do something like eat. So you do what's necessary. You create a business. You follow that idea that you have, and you put all the time, the energy, and the effort to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And that's the world that we live in, which is very powerful.
Yeah. I agree. And I was watching a video yesterday by Jamie Smart, and he was talking about knowing your purpose, or kind of making the right decisions. And I know, we all know that friend who has trouble making the decision. Like you're at a cake store and she spends about 15 minutes trying to decide between, 5 different types of cakes, right?
Right.
And he was talking about decision making and, following that inner desire. And something that Jamie Smart said really resonated with me. And he was saying how for him, the moment he knew he wanted to be a life coach, he didn't need any courage. Like his inner knowing of that being the right thing to do was so strong that he just knew that was the natural next step. And he didn't need like courage to, bring his hands down, lift his leg up in order to make that step, right? And sometimes I feel like that resonates with me, and that's how a lot of my big decisions or transformations in my personal life also happens. I get such a strong feeling inside, like this fire, and I know it's the right thing to do. And if I don't go that way, I wouldn't say it's immense pain, but there's just this misalignment, just knowing that I'm kind of veering off path, and it seems like it's going in a direction that's a bit counterintuitive. So I have to say that this going for it type of feeling is not out of pure courage or willpower. It's this kind of natural, like a magnet. It's drawing me closer, and it's not only bringing my attention there, but also my action and my energy.
Right. So now, when you decided to create Feminine Space, what was the reasoning behind it? Out of all the ideas that as a creative you probably had coming through your mind, like what resonated the most with it?
Oh, good question. And I have a feeling you kind of know the answer, and it is definitely my own experience with the subject. I can't imagine being so heavily invested in something if I didn't go through it myself, right? Like if I did not experience the change inside of me and the importance it does have in my life. So how it all came about and how I experienced it was last year in December. So in December, my husband and I, we were going to my friend's wedding in India, and we had this month-long trip planned. But halfway through, a little bit more than halfway through, I got the news that my dad suddenly passed away, and we halted the trip, and I flew to Kuala Lumpur, and just dealt with the whole kind of family issues and everything that we had to go through there. And in this time, even with all that was going on, tough time, I had this little nudge inside of me. So I would call it like a hunch or some kind of intuitive feeling inside of me. And it just told me to find a book to read about goddesses. And I found it a little bit strange, this voice in my head. I'm like, okay, are you sure? Like, what about goddesses do you want me to know? But it was there. It was persisting. So I listened, went onto Amazon and tried to find the right book. Didn't resonate with most of them until I found one. And it's called The Wild Feminine by Tammy Lynn Kent. So I read it. And last January, I had this realization that I'm very intuitively good and talented with energy and healing and just perception and just like really deeply feeling into others and knowing what to do in order for healing to happen. So I thought I knew myself really well. But then as I read this book, I realized there was a part of me I was neglecting, and that was pretty much my womanhood. And as I tapped into the different exercises, I realized just the immense power that I have in me, which I was completely ignorant to because it was uncomfortable, because I was never taught to go into like my pelvic space and to honor like my womb and my womanhood and the immense power within a female, which usually is not lived to the full extent when we look at people on the streets and what's going on normally. So as this connected me with myself, I suddenly one day had a really strong shift inside of me. It's as if my heart and my root or pelvis connected. I'm really heart-based, and that's how I did my healing work before. But suddenly disconnected, and a feeling inside of me, like my body was telling me, I want to have children and I want to have kids with my husband. And I freaked out. Because that's not what the mind wanted, and that's not our agreement. And you know what, in every relationship, this is such a big topic that you kind of have maybe it's a non-verbal understanding, but it's kind of there.
Right. And
we agreed, we don't want children. We don't like them. So at this point, my mind was going, oh no. And before in my mind, I had the most humanitarian, environmental, and the kindest, ideas in my head for why not to have children. But then there it was, my body was telling me, yes, I do. And it was through this energetic kind of connection back to myself that it came about. So then I thought, gotta be honest with my husband, right? So I gave him a call, right. And then we were on Skype. I was in Kuala Lumpur. He was back in Switzerland. And I said to him, there's something I want to tell you. And he said, okay, tell me. And I couldn't say it. It's so difficult to say it because I was afraid of how he would react. And since we agreed, unwritten agreement that this is not what we wanted. And being him, my goodness, I was struggling to tell him. And he said, oh, I think I know what you want to tell me, but I think it's important that you say it yourself. And I was just like, I hate you. I hate how you get me. But anyways, at some point I was able to tell him. And he said, me too. And I was half shocked and half not.
Yeah.
One part of me was like, really? This is not what we agreed upon. And the other half was, right, you know me, and you kind of, in some ways, even though we weren't physically together, he kind of lifted at the same rate that I did to this kind of new place. So he got me, and something unblocked in him too. So there it was. So after all that, family event, I came back to Switzerland, and I just wanted to sit down and I wanted to think back and be like, okay, currently I have this healing work, which is one-on-one, but if that is what I want in life, and if that happens, how do I want to design my life? So I really sat down and I envisioned, well, what do I want? How do I want to spend my time? If I have children, do I want to be able to decide if I can spend time with them? How much? So I really sat down and thought, well, I really want to still keep doing the work I do and impact people and, inspire transformations. But how do I do that even on a greater level? And I thought, online is the way. And so I created that space, and it also had to do with another event that I went to locally right after I came back to Switzerland. It was filled with healers and alternative health practitioners, and I was in this room with amazing people who were quite aligned with what they want to do in life. And then I was feeling into women in a room, and I was feeling into what I was reading and going through personally. And I noticed something, and I felt that the really powerful women in the room, like the authoritative, powerful in the room, women in the room, they were drawing from this really masculine type of energy, like this forward focus, like really direct and really strong type of power. While the women who were really soft and loving and giving and nurturing, I felt that they didn't feel appreciated, and they also didn't feel so empowered. So I felt and I saw this imbalance in what was happening in women, like the ones who are very out there and strong, like seemingly strong, are actually acting like men, while the women who are very feminine and drawing from their giving nature and loving nature, they actually don't feel worthy for all that they do. So I was like, this is a complete disconnect. What's going on here? And I just started talking to women and figuring out what it is that they needed. And like many things, we're all just going through the same thing. So that's how it all came about. It's a bit of a long story, but I think it's a good story.
It is a great story because it tells that journey, that it wasn't just you woke up one morning and thought, this sounds like a great idea, I'm just going to go and do it. It was this series of events that took place where you identified key things that are part of building any business. And the key component was you identified a problem.
Yes.
And that's where so many people, when it comes to building a business, they don't do it first. You think of how many times you hear someone say, oh, just follow your passions, you can build a business. Well, yes, but the more important thing that you have to ask yourself first is, are you solving a problem? Because at the end of the day, we buy solutions to problems. You go to the grocery store because you need food to eat. You buy a house because you need a place to live. The list goes on, but you're always buying solutions to problems. So if we don't address that first, then we're not building a business on a solid foundation. And then it's not going to last. Like, oh, I love doing this thing here, but it's cool and all, but no one really wants it. That's just that process that we have to go through. So when you started building Feminine Space, what was those first things that you did to start building your community, your tribe, to attract them? Because when you look at the world that we live in with, over 7 billion people, how did you start attracting those initial people to your space?
Absolutely. So first, I like I said, I noticed what I wanted to solve, or at least something in the world was triggering something in me. Like, is that right? What could be a better way, right? Like, what if a woman fully lived out their potential? What if they were completely aligned with their body and their thoughts and what they wanted? So that was kind of step number one, to see what's going on. Okay, I think something's there, and something that I can do and have personally experienced, and which I can give in return. So that was step one. And with that in mind, I reached out to a lot of women. So I ended up interviewing almost more than 40, around 50 women, and just speaking about, well, what does femininity mean to you? And what does like feminine power or being powerful mean to you? And what is in the way of getting that? And whatever you identify that you wanted, whether it be, living freely, being balanced and being worthy, whatever they identified, what do you get from that? So really dive deep into, well, so what if you make this change in your life? Why does that matter? And why is that something you want to improve or transform or grow in your life? So I really spoke with a lot of people to understand what it is that they truly wanted. And once I knew, I began to reach out by giving a lot of free content, especially in an online business space. The business model is a lot more different than, I think, the brick and mortar type. So I gave a lot of free content with my own podcast and doing interviews and just videos too, to speak to people on that level, on the level of their need, on the level of their pain, and on the level of their aspirations and their true desires. Because I feel that there's so much information out there, but how we can connect to others is through that place where we reach to a part of them, where something shifts inside, where something moves, where something is felt. And I think that is the real connection. And so from there, you have to keep building the relationships, because it's not just like a one touch kind of, you touch someone once and then they're your best friend or your best client, right? So how I keep in touch and to keep building the relationship and keep offering the value is through both my podcast and the emails I sent to them on a regular basis, but also through my own Facebook group. And I think it's nice to have a place where people hang out, because there's so much content, but I feel more and more what people truly want is to be heard and seen and felt, and to be in a place where people get them and also where they can feel like they're connected to others. So that's why I created my Facebook group, so that they can feel safe, so that I can provide them the feelings and that kind of supportive environment so they can grow already without, having to pay, just like a free space where they understand the value of what I'm giving them, not just content, but also in this kind of community and this supportive environment. So whatever it is that you want your people to receive, give them that feeling. And that can be in content or in the environment that you bring to them, but it's just something needs to be touched. I think that something needs to be moved. And I think that's a trick of communicating to your people and your tribe.
Right. Oh, definitely. You have to create the atmosphere that you really want, because you can sense the energy in different groups. The ones that they're more loving, others, they're more hard charging, focus on goals and achievement. But it's that responsibility. When you create that energy, you're going to attract the people that resonate with it. And the ones that are not resonating with it, they're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Agreed.
So now, since you're using your podcast and you're using your email, how has it been going so far with growing your business online?
Well, so far, I'm quite at the beginning of stage. So I'm giving all that I can, and I wish to launch next year because I want to build a membership community, and I'm really following the model that I need to build the strongest foundation that I have. And I know that there is a big trap there to rush things and to do the work that you love and, give the, service and the value right away. But for me, it doesn't quite make sense at the moment. So I'm always attracting them and even further understanding what the people need. So within my group, and I really mean it when I see them and I hear them and I feel them, because that is a really major way to understand what's going on in their heads. So I'm using their interaction, I'm using this space, I'm using every single conversation to further understand their needs. So when it's time for me to launch my membership and my mega course for women, it's going to be exactly what they need. And when I reach out to them, they're almost going to be thinking, you get me. I feel like you're in my head because I have been, fully there and understanding what it is that they need. And I also have to say that at this point, and it was a struggle at the beginning to give so much free content because I was thinking, well, if I give so much free content and I talk about every single subject and I give practical takeaways and I give, 21-day self-love challenges for free and all these things, well, what will my course be about? And I was in this space of a little bit of scarcity, if I give too much, will I have anything left? And something that I realized at this stage as I hustle and as I reach out to attract my tribe is that the more I give, the more I'm inspired by even more topics, my understanding deepens even further, and I seem to have this endless supply to give, which is kind of counterintuitive at the beginning when you're new to just spreading content for free. But I honestly feel like I'm over this hump. And I feel that especially if you're in a place where you're building your personal brand and you are the, go-to person, you have to give your everything. And at first I felt myself holding it back a bit and it didn't even feel good. And right now I'm just putting myself out there. I'm getting used to being interviewed, being videotaped and all that stuff. And now it's comfortable because it's me extending in all directions, 360 degrees and just letting people feel who I am, what my message is about. And it actually feels really good to give 100%. So that's where I'm at right now, this giving and overcoming this hump of, okay, can I give all this? Isn't it too much? And overcoming that and also really listening to my tribe so that when it's time to launch, I'm confident in them and I'm also confident in our relationship that I've built over the months, and by then a year. Yeah.
And you hit on something which is really important, and that's that getting over creating content for free, because it's something that in today's world, now more than ever, we have to create content which establishes the trust process. Since there was a time that people charge for everything, but then as more and more content became available, you had to change it. It's like, how can you position yourself as the authority? And the only way to do it is you have to create content that you're giving away for free. Because at the end of the day, what happens is people see it and they realize, here's someone who truly cares. And they gave all this stuff for free. I wonder then what's the paid stuff like if they're giving away this? And that ultimately begins to attract your tribe of people. Now, will the model stay like this forever? Who knows? Since we can't predict the future, because if we could, I think it goes without saying we would have picked the winning lottery numbers and won that years ago. So we have to go along with, what do we know that works?
Yeah. I also have to say that, especially if it's a personal brand, and for myself, I'm in the personal development field, and the topics that we touch on are quite sensitive, like self-worth or overcoming feeling guilty and confidence and all that kind of stuff. And I realized that if you're going to be the leader and you're going to place yourself in that position, you have to live that. You can't back down, because you are, I don't want to say role model, but you set the tone for how much people share also. So the more vulnerable I am, the more vulnerable the people in my group will feel, and the safer they will feel, and the more they will trust me. So it's as if every single story or shameful moment or mistake in my life now has so much value, because it's not just something that happened. It's not even just content, because you lived through that and you're the only person who can share it in your way and with that learning, and to share it with others, which has that human vibe to it, that has that connection that cannot be imitated. So I feel like a part of it is not just sharing what you know, it's sharing a part of yourself. And to me, the transparency goes so deep that I have to be completely honest and own all that I have gone through. Because if I expect my ladies in my group to transform and to overcome their past and whatever traumas that they lived through, I have to face my own. And in no way am I going to hide my mistakes or my flaws, just to pretend that I have a certain, persona that's kind of perfect, and I've come to the place, the other side, right? So right. I think that even with this world of content and immense amounts of information, our personal stories and what we live through, that's really valuable, and especially the bad stuff. The really, really, really bad stuff. Keep those and maybe share them later, because that'll be gold.
Oh, totally. And you hit it on the head exactly with, you're being vulnerable, letting people into our world, because at the end of the day, people want to know you're just like me, that you might be a few steps ahead, but now they can relate to you, versus they see you as this person off in the sky. Look at them. They're sitting on a throne looking down at everyone like, that's right, peasants. You're going to do this so you can grow. Well, no, you're right there with them.
Follow my golden trail.
Right, exactly. So it shifts everything, because that's what we want. We want relatability, because then in the process, by being vulnerable and then giving freely, it creates that sense of belief and positivity, and people realizing that if they can do it, then that must mean I can do it too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It breaks all those barriers of, oh, well, they did it because they're special, they're lucky. The ways that people tend to justify something happening, those are all broken down, because we realize that it's possible for anybody if they, one, believe they can do it, and then two, they put in the work.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's just what's needed. So as we're wrapping up everything, Natasha, what is one thing that someone can do to begin following their path in life to create the life that they want, to embrace who they are?
I often say this, and I really stand behind it because it's what I followed and it really worked for me. And if I didn't do this, I definitely would not be where I am right now. And it is to listen. And I don't mean listening as in just through hearing, but really allowing yourself to feel what's going on internally. So imagine that time when I was in the Kuala Lumpur because of my dad passing away. If I did not listen to that hunch to find that book, to read up on goddesses, I would not have stumbled on the topic, which is a big part of the topic that I cover within my work now. And also, if I did not listen to that idea and that voice, go do it, go teach yoga on the lawn for free and just by donation after work. If I did not listen then, I would not have stumbled on yoga and also my healing work and all that. So I really want to encourage you to listen, and listen without fear of your emotions and what might come up, because what might come up in terms of thoughts and feelings and whatever, that might just guide you to the place where you need to be. And if you don't listen, well, I think the message will come clear and clear. When one form or another, you will be listening to the message and, whatever it is that you really, really need to do in this life.
Right, definitely. Listening is an important aspect that we have to do more of every single day, because so many times the answer is right there. We just need to make ourselves aware of its presence.
Yes, you said it right there. Boom.
That's right, okay, the mic has been dropped. I definitely want to thank you for coming on, Natasha. Now, how can people learn more about you and about Feminine Space to become part of your community?
Awesome. So if you would like to check out my podcast and my work, just go to femininespace.com. And I mentioned the Facebook group, so that's femininetribe.com. So you can find either of these links, and then you will be able to reach me.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I definitely want to thank you for coming on today and sharing your experience, your knowledge, and about your journey as you're building your tribe around Feminine Space.
Thank you so much. I feel really blessed. I feel like you are an amazing conversationalist and you bring the good out of people. And thank you for sharing all these stories and showing that our stories do matter. What you experience does matter. So keep spreading that. I feel really, really grateful to be here.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.